Would you believe me if I said that I have 3 stacks of books in this room right now? Let's talk about them. Hello friends, I'm Rosa. Welcome. Today we are doing another book haul. This is going to be a little bit smaller than my usual book hauls, and it'll also be the last book haul of 2021. I don't know how many books we got to go through. I think possibly 30, so it's still a lot. We have some special editions, some collector's editions, some deluxe editions, and a lot of standard books as well. I am so excited for this book haul. This will be fun, so I hope you are too. If there's a specific genre that you want to check out, I always leave chapters in the timeline so you can skip ahead, but we're gonna start out with young adult fantasy and also, no, just young adult fantasy. So the first book that I want to show you and talk about a little bit is Little Thieves by Margaret Owen, and this is a special edition that I got from Illumicrate. It has stenciled edges, sprayed edges, it has an inverted kind of cover as well. I think the goal is supposed to be a little bit less than it is on this cover, and it also has art directly on the naked cover that is created by Margaret Owen herself. I'm obsessed with this edition. It's beautiful. I love it. In this book we follow our lead girl, who is not a good girl. She is rather mean actually. She's a bit of a villain. She's a thief. And I believe she works as a maid for a princess. And essentially she basically ends up stealing the princess's life from her. That's kind of messed up. I'm super excited to go into this. The synopsis seemed very intriguing to me, and I'm also excited to be reading my first Margaret Owen book, so super excited for this one. It just came out in November. Oh, and it's also a retelling of The Goose Girl. I probably should have started out by saying that. But anyway, this is young adult fantasy retelling. I believe there's romance in it, but I'm not really, I think so. And we also have some LGBT rep in there as well, because I believe the two main characters are both demisexual. So yeah, just super excited for this one. Gorgeous copy. Let's move on to the next book. So the next book that I have to show you is The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, and this is by Michelle Hodkin. This is kind of, I believe, also contemporary, but it's definitely fantasy. We follow our lead girl, who I'm assuming is Mara. Or Mara, not really sure how to pronounce her name. What's new when it comes to fantasy books, am I right? But Mara one day woke up at the hospital with no recollection of how she got there, and she's told that she was in an accident that unfortunately killed her friends, but somehow left Mara completely unscathed, except that she doesn't remember what happened to her. However, she feels like there is something more to this accident than what is initially led on, so I'm assuming that she kind of wants to investigate it a little bit, but that's literally all I got from the synopsis. I don't even know if she goes investigating. I just know that she was in an accident and she doesn't really have any memories of it. And there's also a love story in there. So this is young adult fantasy, but set in a contemporary setting, and also romance. This is a used copy, by the way, but I'm pretty sure that it's not actually used because it has not been opened more than this. I can feel it. This is also a trilogy, and I probably should have said, I feel like I always forget something, but this is the start of a series as well, I think. Is it a trilogy or is it a duology? I'm not really sure, but it's the start of a series. This is the start of a trilogy, and all 3 books have been out for a while. I'm just a little bit behind on reading them. But anyway, yep, The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. Then we have the first book in a duology, and that is Ray Bear by Jordan Ifueko. I have already ordered the sequel. It just has not arrived yet because of Christmas, so I'm gonna be patient and not start reading this one until it gets here. But in this book we follow our lead girl who, and this is going to be a little bit, see, I've not really seen anybody summarize this well, I want to say. I'm not going to do a better job myself, but that's because it's really hard to summarize. Essentially, we follow our lead girl who is raised in isolation with her mom, and she gets the chance to become a ray bearer for the king or the prince, the Crown Prince's Council of 11. So the Council of 11, they are the ray bearers, and this means that in some way she'll be connected to the Crown Prince. Her mom tells her out of the blue, I want you to kill the Crown Prince, and that's all I got. So I'm super excited for this one though. Like, I have heard amazing things about these 2 books. and they have been on my to buy list for the longest time. So thank you to my mom actually for giving me this one as a present. I appreciate it so much. Can't wait to get started with it, but I'm just gonna wait until Redemptor gets here. And this is young adult fantasy, romance, and also magic. So it's a good little mix, I think. But anyway, Ray Bearer by Jordan Fuego. Let's move on to the next book. Next up we have Dreams Lie Beneath by Rebecca Ross. This is the Owl Parade exclusive edition that came with the November box, by the way, so it has an exclusive cover. You might not recognize the book. The standard version has a girl that is kind of like hidden behind vines and stuff on it, so I don't know if that helps in any way, but anyway, in this book, we follow our lead girl again. I love lead girls, okay? It's a thing. And she's about to follow in her father's footsteps to become a warden of this town that the book is set in, even though that's not really what she actually wants to do. However, then suddenly her father, I think, or herself, maybe her father's job, not really sure, is challenged by two other magicians. And they enter into this duel. Magicians' duels are always, if you've read The Night Circus, they're always kind of abstract, but anyway, she enters into this duel with these two other magicians, and I believe that one of them is the young man that she basically ends up having to work together with. Something about a curse as well that's on the realm. So there's a lot of stuff to unravel in this book. I'm super excited for it. It was the last book that I wanted to pre-order in 2021. So when I saw that Owl Parade was doing it for their box, I decided to get their box, and I'm happy that I did because she is gorgeous and I can't wait to read it. I just noticed there's like potions and stuff. There's a snake on this cover. I didn't notice that before. Interesting. Okay, but this is young adult fantasy. I believe it takes place in a historical setting as well, but I'm not really certain on that, so don't take my word for it. And obviously with magicians, we also have magic in there. And romance. And enemies to lovers. Pretty sure. So yeah. Then next up, I have no idea how to summarize these books, but they were on sale one day, so I was like, you know what, let's go for it. Let's go for it because I really wanted them. And it is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by Laini Taylor. I honestly don't remember the synopsis at all, so we're gonna read it out loud. It says, in general, Karu has managed to keep her two lives in balance. On the one hand, she's a 17-year-old art student in Prague. On the other, errand girl to a monstrous creature who is the closest thing she has to family. Raised half in our world, half in elsewhere, she has never understood Brimstone's dark work, buying teeth from hunters and murderers, nor how she came into his keeping. She is a secret even to herself, plagued by the sensation that she isn't whole. Now the doors to elsewhere are closing, and Karu must choose between the safety of her human life and the dangers of a nearly destroyed world that may hold the answers she has always thought. So yeah, I'm really excited for this. I've only heard good things about these books, and I'm also really interested in Strange the Dreamer as well, but I'm pretty sure I'm getting those for Christmas, so that's why I've been holding off on buying them. But when I saw these were on sale, I was like, let's go for it. Let's jump into it. Let's just purchase them. Bit of an overkill situation, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. So these books are young adult fantasy, possibly urban fantasy. If she's in Prague, that seems like it would be urban fantasy. I believe there's something about angels in there, so we have some paranormal vibes as well, and also romance. Yeah, and I think that's it. But I'm excited for these. So excited, so. And then we have sci-fi. I only have one young adult sci-fi, and I just got it a couple of days ago, and that is Seven Devils by Elizabeth May and Laura Lamb. I keep looking at the cover because it's new, I'm sorry. Anyway, this feels like another one that is really hard to summarize. So I'm gonna read out loud the synopsis. Not to be lazy, just because you'll see, okay? You'll see. So we follow two characters, by the way. After Eris faked her death, she thought she had left her old life as Princess Discordia, heir to the galaxy's most ruthless empire, behind. But joining the Novantane Resistance, an organization opposed to the empire's voracious expansion, throws her right back into the fray. I hope I said that word right. Voracious. Never heard it before. Anyway, Resistance fighter pilot Chloe has been given a mission: infiltrate an empire spaceship ferrying deadly cargo to gain vital intelligence. A task made all the more difficult when she's forced to partner with an old enemy, Princess Discordia herself, Eris. They discover more than they bargained for on the ship fugitives with first-hand knowledge of the Empire's inner workings. With this information, these women might just bring the Empire to its knees. But the clock is ticking. Ares' brother Damocles, we'll see, new heir to the throne, plans to disrupt a peace summit with the only remaining free alien people, ensuring the Empire's total domination. Unless this band of unlikely rebels stops him, millions will die. So we have a bit of a squad situation going on, enemies to lovers, I'm assuming. Which we know I have issues with, like positive issues, but issues nonetheless. I love a good enemies to lovers, okay? It's a thing. So I'm super excited for this one. This one was also on sale, so I just kind of jumped into it. But I needed some more sci-fi in my collection, and I'm excited for this one. But this is sci-fi, young adult, romance, I'm assuming LGBT rep, and whatever else we will see once I start reading it. And then I had a gift swap with a friend of mine who gave me, which is one of my favorite, okay, if you follow my videos here, you know I love ACOTAR. So she ended up giving me the collector's edition, and this is gorgeous. It's just the book, but it looks different. But I really wanted to show it to you anyway because I am obsessed. This is Feyre right here, and I love everything about this. It's going to be displayed on my shelves. She's gonna look good. I'm just really thankful that I got this. I just wanted to show it anyway because it is a book after all, even if it is a collector's edition. So if you don't know ACOTAR, I have talked about it on the channel in a wrap-up before, but we follow Feyre, who lives with her two sisters and her dad. They used to be privileged, but they are not anymore, and they're kind of struggling with that. So Feyre has to go hunt and stuff a lot just to make sure that she can feed the family, even though she's the youngest of the three, but that's a discussion we'll get into another time. And then there's suddenly one day a wolf in the forest. This forest, by the way, is also kind of dangerous because there's supposedly fairies and stuff, or not fairies, fae in the forest, so it's kind of dangerous to be there. Anyway, she ends up killing this wolf and is taken off to a castle in the fae realm, and then stuff goes down, and that's all I'm gonna say, because otherwise I'll just start talking about it and I'll spoil something for someone who hasn't actually read the book, or the books, plural. But this was probably my favorite series that I read this year, so I'm so happy to have the collector's edition of this. It's gorgeous. Okay. But also, ACOTAR is new adult fantasy, romance, retelling. The first one is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, magic, fae, enemies to lovers. Yeah, just a whole lot of, like, a nice mix of different things, so I highly recommend that you check it out. And then we're on to adult fantasy, and I have a little bit, I have like 4 different I want to talk about. The first one being King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair, who also wrote Touch of Darkness as well, Hades and Persephone. This is Adrian and Isolde. I've not actually read the synopsis of this one yet, but Touch of Darkness was so popular and I cannot get my hands on it anywhere. So when she announced that she was gonna release this one, I pre-ordered it, but I've actually not read the synopsis. It's adult fantasy romance and like slightly smutty, I think, so sounds like a good time to me. But let's read the synopsis. Isolde de Lara considers her wedding day to be her death day. To end a years-long war and protect the people of her kingdom, she is to marry the vampire king Adrian Alexandre Vasiliev. I feel like I just kind of changed accents in the middle of that name. That's fine, let's just move on. And kill him. Okay. But her assassination attempt is thwarted, and Adrian warns that if Isolde tries to kill him again, he will raise her as the undead. Faced with the possibility of becoming the thing she hates most, Isolde seeks other ways to defy him and survive the violence and political machinations of Adrian's brutal vampire court. Except it isn't the court she ends up fearing the most. It's Adrian and her intense attraction to him. Wrapped in mystery and a past he refuses to discuss, Adrian nevertheless starts to become less of a monster to Isolde. Despite their undeniable chemistry, Isolde can't help but wonder why the king, fierce, complicated, ambitious, and at times inexplicably tender, chose her as consort. The answer will shatter her world. Okay, so vampires, which is a good time in my book. So, yep. Actually, now that I read the synopsis, I remembered there was vampires in it. I just had forgotten. I have a lot of books behind me. I can't remember every single one. And then the next books that I want to show is another trilogy, and this is by J. Kristoff, and it's the Nevernight trilogy. So I tend to impulse purchase a little bit and as you might have noticed. And during my first 24-hour readathon, I had to take a break just to rest my eyes from reading, so I sat behind my computer and scouted Book Depository for a little bit, and I ended up purchasing Nevernight. And then a couple of days later, I got a discount code in my email, so I ended up purchasing God's Grave and Dark Dawn. So now I have this trilogy and I've not read it. I don't know when I'm gonna read it, but I really want to. So I'm gonna put these down because they're getting a little bit heavy. But Nevernight. Let's talk a little bit about it. I don't know how to fully summarize this, but we follow Mia, who is a fledgling assassin, and her dad was killed, I believe, and her dad was also a bit of a criminal as far as I know. So she's kind of hunted by people that were after her father, and she decides to join an assassin school called the Red Church. And that's basically all I know. The main reason I got these was I loved Empire the Vampire by J. Kristoff. It was a 5 out of 5 for me. And also, Mia sounds like a badass female character, and I love female badassery. That was basically why. But I believe this is adult fantasy assassins. That's not a genre. I looked it up on Goodreads, and it also says romance, magic, so don't take my word for it though. Also, some people would consider these young adult, some new adult. I'm gonna say they're adult. Not really sure why, but that's what I'm gonna go with. That was the Nevernight trilogy. We have a whole stack and a half left. Yeah, we also have one more adult book left, and then a couple more after that, but I don't know why I said that. We have one more adult fantasy book left, and that is Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. In Under the Whispering Door, we follow our lead man, who is Wallace, and Wallace has died, is attending his own funeral when a reaper comes to reap him. Essentially help him cross over. But he's outraged because he can't possibly be dead, or something like that. I'm not really sure. Enter Hugo, who is, I don't know, but he owns a tea shop, and the two of them talk, and they start talking about Wallace's life, and I think there's a romance story in there. I'm doing a terrible job at summarizing this, but honestly, I've heard so many different ways of it being summarized as well, so I think I'm just kind of confused. Because I heard something about Hugo being deaf as well, and now I don't really know. So we'll see once I read it. I think I'm gonna do that maybe in January, maybe in February or something. We will see, but I am excited for it nonetheless, and also really want House in the Cerulean Sea as well, which I've only heard good things about, including this one. Only heard good things about it. It was a present from my mom as well, so thank you, mama. But this is adult fantasy, romance, LGBT representation as well, I believe, and I think that is it. Maybe some magic in there too. Not really sure. Anyway, Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune, and that is the last one of my adult fantasy books. Except it's not. We still have 8 more to go through, but it's one series, so yeah, let's get to it. And that is, and I've already read the first one and talked about it on the channel, but it is The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski. I hope I pronounced that right. I've really been trying, honestly. I've really been trying. So I'm just gonna talk about the first one, which is, wow, 8 books is not easy to control, I'm just saying. But that is The Last Wish. Technically, it's a prequel to the first book in the series, but we basically follow Geralt of Rivia, who is, in case you hadn't watched the series, season 2 just came out. It's on Netflix. It's amazing. At least season 1. I have not watched season 2 yet. But we follow Geralt of Rivia, who is a witcher. So he's a bit of a mutant, and his job is to kill monsters for people and get paid for it, if they are willing to pay him at least. And that is, that's all I can say actually. I don't know, it's kinda, these are short stories, but they are intertwined in a way that is really well made. So it doesn't feel like, let's jump from one story to the next. There's kind of like a thread between them. It makes sense if you read the book. These are funny as heck. It's high fantasy, adult, funny. Can comedy be a thing in this one? I don't really know. I just had a really good time reading the first one, so I'm kind of hoping that the next ones will have a similar vibe as this one did. But I highly recommend, if you want to just check out the Witcher series, that you grab this one because it was a good time. All magic, lots of different supernatural creatures, like a lot of different, there's like 3 different kinds of vampires in this world or something, I don't really know. There's a lot going on and a lot of monsters. A lot of magic. A lot. And also some romance in there. Just like a little bit. A little bit of romance. I swear, every time someone pees in this apartment building, I can hear it in my office and it's driving me nuts. I don't want to know when people are peeing. See, now you gotta know too. You're welcome. Oh, look at this color, by the way. Purple. So pretty. Time of Contempt. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Next up, I put these in adult sci-fi that section of the video, but I'm not really sure where they fit in, to be honest. They could also go in fantasy, I suppose. But it is the Villains duology that is actually not a duology. I think there's a third book coming by V.E. Schwab. And in these books, we follow Victor and Eli. I believe, yeah, they used to be college roommates, and I also believe that they were experimenting with something in college that essentially turned catastrophic, and both of them ended up with supernatural powers. But these are not necessarily superheroes, but villains. That's basically all I know. It's about villains, and I'm excited for that. Love myself some superhero vibes, so this will be a good time, I think, and I have heard lots of good things about these books as well. These are super nice, by the way, if you are interested in paperbacks. They are so floppy. It's so nice. Just so you know, like, they're really nice. These are adult fantasy or sci-fi, I'm not really sure. Like, what would you call that? Urban fantasy, but sci-fi? Not really sure. And I don't know who that is on the cover of the second book, which is, it's a woman, and I'm confused, but I'll learn once I start reading them. She's holding guns, so that's interesting. Are you the hero, or are you another villain? I don't know. And I have another adult sci-fi, and that is Dune, and this is the deluxe edition. So it has blue sprayed edges that matches the moon on the... That's not a moon. I keep calling that a moon. It's not a moon, it's just a planet. Every single time I talk about this book, I say that it's a moon. Like, literally every single time. It's just a planet. Okay, this is hard to explain. But it also matches his eyes and also the title. So I bought this because I saw someone had this version of the book on Instagram, and I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. I will show you why I think it's gorgeous. It has inside dust jacket art that looks like this. On the cover here, the naked cover, it says "Fear is the mind killer," which is the thing in the book. It also has end paper art that looks like this. And it has more end papered art that looks like this. It's just a really beautiful copy. Not sure how to summarize this book either. We follow our lead guy, who is basically essentially the chosen one a bit. It's a chosen one story. He is from a privileged family. They have to move to another planet, as you do, casual. And then he's thrown into a lot of stuff. This takes place in a world as well where we have this, I don't know if you want to call it a drug, but there's a spice that can do things to your body and stuff. Like, it's really hard to explain, okay? I'm having a hard time right now. And it can be found in the sand in all these dunes. And there's some sandworms in there that are very dangerous as well. But the spice is also worth a lot of money, so there's a lot of like stuff surrounding it as well. Like I don't know how to summarize this, okay? It's complicated. It's old sci-fi. It's more or less a sci-fi classic, and I still don't know how to summarize it, so that's awkward. And let's move on. We have 3 books technically in one. I'm not gonna summarize them, but my mom bought this for us actually, so it's just here right now, but it's Stephen King. It's 3 books. We have Carrie, Salem's Lot, and also The Shining. It has silver sprayed edges. I believe this is possibly Penguin Random House. I don't really know. I haven't seen other versions like with other authors and other books in them of this kind of version, or however you say that, these kinds of editions. But I spotted this as a book at a bookstore, and I was instantly like, I only saw the spine, I was like, what is that? I need it. So she ended up purchasing this for us, so it's here so I can read it, but she also wants to borrow it now and then, if that makes sense. And I'm super excited to get into this at some point, but I'm not gonna summarize the 3 books. I'm just not going to. It's a lot. But yeah, super gorgeous edition. Love the silver edges right here. So by Stephen King. And then I have another one kind of in the same... Oh, that's horror, by the way. A lot of like horror. In case you didn't know who Stephen King is, he writes horror. And a lot of it. Very, very many horror books. The next one I want to talk about is Jane Austen's 7 novels. This is the Barnes & Noble's edition. It's gorgeous. Got it from my mom as well. She bought this for my 4th Advent present. So I just got it Sunday. It's so pretty. This includes all her 7 books. And just in case you've missed it, if you've watched my videos for a long time, or since I started uploading book videos, I don't actually know if I've mentioned it other than in a weekly vlog at some point. But Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen is my absolute favorite book of all time. Absolute favorite book. So I have not read the rest of hers, but I'm super excited to. I know Sense and Sensibility is supposed to be really good. Persuasion as well, and this edition is just beautiful with the art on the cover and with gilded edges as well. I am obsessed. I'm looking forward to reading some more of her, although I don't know if I'll read them in this book, but I'm looking forward to reading more of her work, because if I love one of her books that much, surely I'll like the other ones at least, right? So I put that under historical fiction, but it's not historical fiction because the books are written at that time, so I don't really know what to call them other than just classics. But yeah. Oh, and romance. They're very romantic and kind of feminist as well. So if that's your thing, definitely check them out. If it's not your thing, I still recommend reading Pride and Prejudice because everyone deserves to get acquainted with Mr. Darcy. I'm just saying. Next up, we have my contemporaries. We're going to start out with two young adult books that are Aristotle and Dante, the duology. So this one came out very recently, but it is Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe, and also Aristotle and Dante dive into the waters of the deep. Oh, waters of the world. Waters of the deep. I don't know what did I just say? Anyway, these titles are so long, but have heard so insanely many good things about the first book. Actually don't fully know what it's about though, but other than it's about two guys that are kind of also getting acquainted with each other. It has a lot of awards though, so let's read out the synopsis for the first one of the books at least. Dante can swim. Ari can't. Dante is articulate and self-assured. Ari has a hard time with words and suffers from self-doubt. Dante gets lost in poetry and art. Ari gets lost in thoughts of his older brother who is in prison. Dante is fair-skinned. Ari's features are much darker. It seems that a boy like Dante, with his open and unique perspective on life, would be the last person to break down the walls that Ari has built around himself. But when Ari and Dante meet, they bond. They share books, thoughts, dreams, laughter. They teach each other new vocabularies and begin to redefine each other's worlds. And they discover that the universe is a large and difficult place. So yeah. Oh, it is literally about two boys that are getting acquainted with each other. I feel like that's also what I've heard at most about the book, to be honest. And this one came out sort of a long time ago, this one very recently, so I'm excited to read the first one and see the development in, like, have they gotten older, or I don't really know, because I don't want to read the synopsis of the sequel when I haven't read the first one. I just don't want to accidentally spoil anything for me. That hopefully makes sense. We have 4 more books and then we are done. Oh, these are, I think, pretty sure at least this one is young adult. Don't know about the second one, but they are contemporary romance with LGBT plus representation. Then we have 2 companion novels by Olivia Dade. The first one is All the Feels and the second one is, spoiler alert, I should probably have done that the other way around because this is the first one, this is the sequel. They're companion novels, so I don't know if it really matters. But these are basically like fanfic inspired books and also about nerds and actors and body positivity, and I believe there's ADHD representation in this one. I think he has ADHD, pretty sure. These are adult contemporary books, contemporary romance books, and I'm looking forward to reading them at some point. These are also Illumicrate special editions, so they have sprayed edges. They don't normally come as hardbacks, but Illumicrate did that. So I'm thankful because I love them. They are so cute, so tiny, so compact, and I love the sprayed edges that match as well. If you hadn't noticed, like, yeah, a bit of a quick one to go through, but I feel like that summed it up pretty well. And then we have an adult contemporary romance by Colleen Hoover. This one is All Your Perfects, which is about a marriage that's kind of like 2 people in a marriage that's kind of fallen apart 7 years after they met, and I believe there's some stuff about like second chances maybe as well. I heard that it's kind of heavy, so keep that in mind, but I'm excited for this. I love myself some Colleen Hoover, which is also why I got another one, and that is Ugly Love. And for this one, I don't remember the synopsis, so I'm gonna read it out loud. It's not exactly love at first sight for Tate Collins when she meets the tormented and secretive Miles Archer. They wouldn't even go so far as to consider themselves friends. The only thing Tate and Miles have in common is a mutual physical attraction that can't be denied. Once their desires are out in the open, they realize they might have stumbled on the perfect no-strings attachment. No strings arrangement. No strings attachment. That makes no sense. He isn't looking for love and she doesn't have time for it, so that leaves just the sex. What they've got could be surprisingly satisfying as long as Tate can stick to the 2 rules Miles has for her. Never ask about the past, don't expect a future. They think they can handle it, but everything is different when real emotions start to change the equation. So a bit of a friends with, or not really, not really friends, a bit of a fun situation turned interesting. How to make it PG? I think you got the point. Yeah, heard many good things about this. Again, Colleen Hoover is a contemporary queen, so super excited to read this at some point. And that is that is actually the last one of my books that I want to go through. So hope this video didn't turn out to be an hour long like the last couple of book hauls have been. The next one will also be a little bit shorter because I'm buying fewer books these days. But I hope you enjoyed this little run through of all the books anyway. So if you've read any of these books and you like them, let me know. If you yourself have gotten some amazing books lately and you want to share what they are, let me know as well. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you're new here and you want to hang out, nerd about books with me and everyone in the comments, consider hitting the subscribe button. And that is all I got today. So I hope you all enjoyed this video and I also hope to see you in the next one. Bye!